This is an insert for the discussion about the Egyptian gods and goddesses. You will see the following gods and goddesses come up on the screen. The first one will be Anubis, who, if you'll notice, is a human body with a jackal's head. He was the god of mummification and the afterlife. The next god you see will be Ra, or Re as he was referred to, and he's shown with a falcon head, and then he is the god of the sun. And then the next one will be the goddess Sekhmet, who was the goddess of war and guidance, and she is shown with a lion's head. And then you have the god Thoth, who is the god of wisdom, and he's shown with an ibis head. And the next one, which is more like a diagram, it's not really a picture of the gods, it's a picture of the sky goddess Nut and the earth god Geb, and it shows Geb with a snake's head. It's very interesting that the earth would be associated with the snake. But these are just to show you that the Egyptians did not show animal bodies, they showed animal heads on their gods. So this is more like an addendum to the original video. Hi, I'm Zarin, and today I'd like to talk about why the Sphinx is the key to Atlantis. You know, for many years we thought the Sphinx was the one in Egypt, the Great Sphinx, was the oldest one. And we've now discovered there is an even older Sphinx. It was discovered in an archaeological dig in Turkey called Göbekli Tepe. It's a very interesting site. A lot of things are getting ready to be discovered there. But this Sphinx they discovered in Göbekli Tepe is about 6,000 years older than the one in Egypt. Now, this is the Sphinx of Egypt. This is basically a classic Sphinx structure from the Egyptian culture, which you have a man's head on a lion's body. This is a very rare event. You don't see too many of these in Egyptian culture, and the ones that you do find are usually females. They're queens. Like you'll see a picture of Queen Hatshepsut and Queen Hephares come up, which are sphinxes. And there are a couple of others that they're not sure whether they're male or female. But in the Egyptian Sphinx iconography, the Sphinx is supposed to be male and it's supposed to be benevolent. In the Greek culture, the Sphinx is a female. It also has wings and is basically malevolent, can be very evil, and can squeeze you to death. That's where the word Sphinx comes from. It's a Greek word. So when you look at this model of the Sphinx, something I noticed when I looked at this was that the left leg protrudes slightly out from the right leg. And if you look at the photo that's about to come up on the screen, you'll see that the same thing takes place in the actual sculpture. The left paw of the Sphinx sticks out farther. Now, in Egyptian mythology, the deities, there are no deities that I can find that have animal bodies with human heads. I have not been able to find one. There might be one, but I haven't been able to find it. The only thing we can find like that is in the Sphinx, and the ones that we find that are in the Egyptian smaller sculptures are much later. They're in the Middle Kingdom and the New Kingdom, which is 1,000 years after they believe this one was built. Now, they believe the Sphinx was built about 5,000 years ago. But there's a lot of disagreement about that. There's no proof at the time they believe that it was built, There's no record, nothing that says that the Great Sphinx at Giza was built by Khafre or Khufu or anybody else. There's a lot of different theories about it. There's a lot of controversy over it. They believe it might be older. But what's really interesting is that the Sphinx in Göbekli Tepe had to have been built about 9,500 or made about 9,500 years ago, which would put it at about the same time that Atlantis existed. Because in Plato, he was told by Solon that he was told by Egyptian priests, where all of this comes from, that Atlantis existed 10,000 years before his time. So if we have a Sphinx dated around that time in Göbekli Tepe, and then we have the possibility that Atlantis existed at either prior to Göbekli Tepe, may have created Göbekli Tepe, or may have been connected, then we have a Sphinx that's 6,000 years older than the one in Egypt. So why would you have, first of all, almost all the statues of the pharaohs are sitting or standing. You never see one laying down in a reposed situation other than the Sphinx statues, which, as I said, most of those are queens. So why would they build a great statue, one of the largest in history, in the middle of the desert, of a half man, half lion, pointing east? Well, they thought that it might be connected to a sun worship religion, which there are belief systems that support the lion's association with the sun. What I feel it was built, and I do believe it was built a lot later than everybody or a lot earlier than everything. I think it was built about 10,000 years ago, and it was designed to point somewhere, which is why the left paw of the Sphinx is slightly ahead of the right one. But not too many people have noticed this, so what am I? I mean, I'm just here giving a talk about a possibility. I mean, I cannot prove any of this, except I do know there is proof that there was a Sphinx found in Göbekli Tepe, which is half man, half lion, and so this is a very old combination of images, and it suggests that there's something older than that this image comes from. It's my feeling that this idea of a man-lion combination is connected directly to Atlantis, and that it does have something to do with kingship, and it does have something to do with rulership, and it has something to do with the sun. But why build this particular shape where it was built? Well, there's a theory, and if you want to hear it, I'll tell it to you. They believe that the great pyramids were all built to align with Orion, and they believe the Sphinx was built to represent the constellation Leo, and they believe it was all put together because the Nile represents the Milky Way, and so it may have something to do with the transiting of our sun through the various constellations and through the Milky Way. Now, you do know that in 2012 we're going to line up with what they call the navel of the Milky Way, and that's supposed to be a very important event, and it's supposed to signal the end of the fourth world, which is this one. What I believe is that the Sphinx was built to point to something, and we need to take a good look at what it's pointing to. Now, I have already put on one video about that, but the next one, which will follow this one, will be part 2 to that, in which we will explain where that is, what's there, why it was put there. And I want you to notice a picture that we're going to put up finally on the screen, which will show the shape that I found in the middle of the Egyptian desert, a topographical shape, and then I did a drawing around it. I just want you to know this is what we will be covering in the next lecture.